Good morning, Nicholas. Good morning, Melissa.
Hey, how are you, Matt?
How are you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Doing
Coming
great.
off the busiest weekend of the year, I'm dying to know, did you two do any holiday shopping over the weekend or this week, Nicholas?
Well, I'll tell you, I bought something, but it was definitely not on sale. Like maybe I'm, too dumb or something. It was second hand though, so I don't know if it does count as a sale.
Okay. All right. How about Melissa? Did you shop this week?
I did. And I usually don't, but there had been an Instagram ad that was following me around that I finally gave into. So I bought some clothes on Cyber Monday. And then I also ended up buying some home decor stuff that was on major sale on Amazon.
Now, were
Ooh,
those things self-purchases or gifts?
They were self purchases, but I did also buy a couple gifts for my daughter. Bought some Christmas gifts and something for my mom. So
I think
no.
it's so much fun. I did not buy one thing. As much as I'm involved in this whole world, I didn't buy a single thing.
oh
So
my
it's
God,
just so funny.
how could that be? Well,
Excited, Nicholas. Let's get
yeah,
going.
yeah, let's go. Hello and welcome to another episode of the live e-commerce show. I am Nicholas, your co-host with eStreamly, the company that brings you onto video commerce, live stream shopping directly on your website. And I am with Matt. Matt, the guy from E6 Marketing, the guy that can get you to QVC and HSN. Well, and today we have a very special guest, right, Matt?
Oh yeah, I'm excited for today.
Yeah, our special guest today is Melissa Dixon, the director of content of BigCommerce. And you know why it's exciting? Because we went through an amazing week, Cyber Monday, Black Friday, first week of the shopping holiday. And Melissa has really first-hand data on everything that happened from an e-commerce perspective. And I'm so excited to have the conversation with her today. Why don't we bring her on?
Melissa, welcome to the show.
Yeah. So Matt,
Hi. Thanks for
hey.
having me.
All right. Well, Matt, why don't you tell us what the show is about today?
Yeah, sure. So this is the VCommerce show. Thank you very much for tuning in. It's a live chat show discussing the hot topics related to video commerce. Video commerce is the storytelling platform that was created over 40 years ago with HSN and QVC and has evolved over time into a direct response commerce through your television, through your tablet, through your phones. At its best, I hope we're entertaining a little bit and you learn something and you come from this conversation with a little bit of insight that you didn't already know.
That's awesome. Well, let's kick it on, Melissa. So, what do we have for you for us today? How was, first of all, like, how do you feel the shopping holiday? I think we've heard everywhere that it went well, but like, how well did it go? Can you share with that?
Yeah, and I think to look at the holiday season, you always kind of have to look at the year leading up to Cyber Week, right? So when we look at 2023, it's really been kind of this year of economic uncertainty. There's inflation, interest rates, gas prices. So experts weren't really sure what to make of the holidays. It kind of got a mixed bag of predictions. And then plus you always have retailers launching holiday deals earlier and earlier every year. So then the question kind of becomes, will Cyber Week still be this massive shopping event? And the short answer is yes, but what we're seeing is this sort of return to pre-pandemic growth rates. There's not necessarily these eye-popping numbers that we had in like 2020 and 2021 at the height of the pandemic. So really what we're seeing is the numbers start to stabilize. At BigCommerce, for example, we saw our customer GMV was up 10% year over year versus, which is great, fantastic, and actually is, higher than some of the industry benchmarks. Like on the massive larger scale, I know that Salesforce reported a global increase of 6% GMV. Our BigCommerce customers saw 10%. So that's great. We're surpassing the benchmarks. But still, those numbers, you can see whether it's Salesforce or Adobe or BigCommerce, they're starting to kind of stabilize. And I think too, ultimately what we're seeing, these numbers are strong, and I'll get into a little bit more, but shoppers are resilient, right? The consumer is resilient. They're definitely still shopping. They're also more active. We actually saw, in addition to this 10% increase for BigCommerce customers, we saw a 7% increase in total orders over the 5 days over Cyber Week. And we actually saw a 3% increase in average order value. So, I mean, they were ordering more, they were spending more. These are still record numbers, but just starting to stabilize to what they were pre-pandemic.
Wow, that's fascinating, and it's impressive. Like, 10% growth, and you're saying that it's stabilizing. I mean, that sounds an interesting, right? Interesting perspective. I don't know what you think, Matt, but 10%, it's a pretty decent number.
I think it's a great number, and all the talk with UPS and FedEx, taking away jobs and talking about a depressed season. Those numbers are real positive. And I want to get into it with you, and you could explain more. There's been so many numbers that I've seen over the last week, but Black Friday versus Cyber Monday, I was really, the numbers I saw 9.8 billion online shopping on Black Friday, but then 12.4 billion on Monday. So how do you equate that, Melissa? Why is Cyber Monday kind of taking over from Black Friday?
Well, it's interesting because I think there's a lot of external factors, like people are still spending time with their families, on Friday a lot of the time. They're on Monday, they might be back to work. They might be, creeping around more, have a little bit more time to look at those deals. But interestingly, I saw that on a national scale for our BigCommerce customers, the biggest sales volume was actually on Black Friday. Black Friday, BigCommerce merchants had the biggest GMV and the most orders, but Cyber Monday, they had the highest average order value of the week, indicating that shoppers were spending more on Monday. So that's interesting. I mean, I think like I said, there's a lot of dynamics that come into play there with the holiday weekend. I think too, Black Friday still might have this sort of, it might still in a lot of people's minds conjure up the chaos, of the old timey doorbuster sales, whereas Cyber Monday is really all about being online. So I think that's why on the national scale, we might be seeing still more activity on Monday. And then just one more note I was going to make too, is really interesting to see the growth on Thanksgiving, how Thanksgiving is really becoming a prime shopping day as part of Cyber Week. We saw 12% increase in GMV year over year for our BigCommerce merchants. And I don't know the numbers industry wide off the top of my head, but I know Thanksgiving sales were up all around. So that's a really interesting one to consider too.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And for the listeners that may not be as familiar as BigCommerce as we are, please kind of clarify one thing with you. Those sales are 100% online, right? You don't have any POC, you don't do any physical retail, or do you do any physical retail? Those are just out of curiosity.
Yeah, great question. So those sales do take into account if there's integrations with social platforms or marketplaces. But they're not going to take into account in-store sales.
Okay, so this is online.
These are e-commerce sales that are from the BigCommerce customer base that include e-commerce stores as well as any integrations to marketplaces or social channels.
Yeah, and speaking of physical retail, I don't know if you saw that, Matt. There was like I'm sure you saw that on TikTok. I don't know if you saw, there was like this video on TikTok that went viral during the week, where it was a lady that is apparently working into one of the Best Buy, and then she's filming all the inventory that store has. And basically, like, you see endless boxes of TV that haven't been sold for the holidays. And if you look at the data, I haven't been able to really put my hand purely on that, but it sounds like retail was not as up as, and physical retail was not as up as digital. And I'm curious, like, have you seen that, Matt? And why is that difference going on?
I saw the same thing. I saw an article about the Blockbuster bursting through the front door of the store at 6 a.m. The excitement that used to be, which doesn't seem that long ago, but I guess it was, a decade or more ago that people really amped up and got their coupons. And I mean, it sounds like it's from the 1950s, but it was 10 years ago where people would show up early to get that television, to get that great toy for their child, like 6 a.m. on a Friday morning, Black Friday morning, to beat the rush. But I had a friend. We live in Pennsylvania, right outside of King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. King of Prussia Mall is the second biggest mall in the country.
Good mall.
And one of my wife's cousin, Dawn, she was there early Friday morning, and she said it wasn't that bad. She said there was volume, but there was no craziness. She walked around drinking coffee with her girlfriend and her daughter, and they had a great experience shopping. It wasn't the frenzy that used to be. So, Melissa, from your point of view, as we talked about Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales increases, what's going on with brick and mortar?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot still happening with brick and mortar. There's a lot of different influencing factors there. I think there still might be, for Cyber Week specifically, like we were talking about, that's really interesting, your anecdote, because I still think I have the trepidation of like, well, I don't want to go to the mall. It's going to be crazy. So it's good to know that it sort of might be leveling out, which makes sense because e-commerce sales are up so high. I think in general, with in-store versus online, it's all about who your customers are. You need to be where your customers are. There's still going to be, it depends if you're a big box retailer or if you're a smaller retailer that has storefronts. Like, it's all about knowing your customers and how they like to shop. Do they maybe like to come to the store and touch and feel things? Do you have a product that's a little more tactical where people want to come to the store? Then you're going to play that up. You're going to have a larger in-store presence. If not, you might be more online, but it's all about knowing where your customers are. Are they on social media? Are they shopping marketplaces? Are they shopping through Amazon, through Walmart Marketplace, through Target Marketplace, and kind of just making sure that you're present and that the experience is seamless through all of those channels. So I think the other thing that comes to mind too is interesting. I do a lot of research with Gen Z and generational marketing, and Gen Zers like the novelty, broadly speaking, of course, like the novelty of in-store experiences. So we're starting to see more of that younger demographic actually go in-store more. So something to think.
And that's their novelty, where it used to be
right.
It's funny. It's like
it's
a
fascinating.
nostalgia for them, practically.
That's
crazy.
And I'm curious, Melissa, did you see, I think there's probably some not discrepancy, but some differences between a category versus another one. What was the predominant category that people were shopping? Is it still remaining the TVs, or people shopping something else like during Black Friday and Cyber Monday?
Yeah, good question. So I do know that our BigCommerce merchants, we saw the top performing categories, and these are pretty standard from what we see year to year. I think we always see a lot of sporting goods. Although this year it was interesting that it was highest. Usually apparel and accessories is the highest, but you can see too that apparel and accessories did have the biggest growth year over year. So that category grew by 22%. Also home and garden, health and beauty, vehicles and parts is an interesting one, which kind of makes me think about if people were using this time, shoppers are savvy. Like, people may have been using this time to buy cars, to buy some of the necessities. I know, like I mentioned myself.
I would assume it's more like a DIY market, right? On the vehicle and parts, mostly, right?
Yeah,
it
is too. But it kind of just makes me think about this larger trend of using Cyber Week to buy your needs as well as your wants. Like, I mentioned that I bought some home decor stuff. Technically not a need, but it was something that it wasn't a treat. It was something that I needed to buy for my home. So waited to make that purchase. So it's interesting to look at the categories. I also read that Adobe published that they saw some of the deepest discounts yet in categories like electronics and furniture. So the discounts were there.
Yeah.
I was happy to see sporting goods was on your list as one of the biggest categories, because Dick's Sporting Goods and other national sporting good chains have really reported down sales. And it's
Mhm.
interesting to see that it kind of turned around over Black Friday weekend. So maybe that trend, that category is building back up.
Yeah, I hope so. We have a lot of great customers in that category that I want to see do well. Black Diamond is one that comes to mind immediately, but I was happy to see that too, because I think, maybe we are starting to see an upward trend going into 2024 for that.
Yeah.
Melissa, in my world of video commerce with QVC and HSN, the fourth quarter is a push in October and November. And it's even pre-pandemic, but they really concentrate on getting ahead of the Black Friday sales and getting ahead. And because I think a combination of just earlier sales in the Q4 area, and then the worry about of transportation and products getting to the consumer on time for the
Right.
holidays. So the last couple of years, once December comes, the fourth quarter kind of fizzles out. October, November were great months in my world. Today's December 1st. I'm interested in what happens over the next, 2 to 2.5 weeks before the cutoff is for shipping. In your world with e-commerce, how do you see that pendulum swinging? Is it getting more towards the pre-pandemic level where people are buying in early December, or do you think most of the spend at this point on December 1st has already occurred?
That's an interesting question, because I do think that what we're seeing is that these retailers and brands have to keep up with expedited shipping. They have to keep up
Yep.
with the Amazons of the world. So people are shopping more through December than they used to, because they know that they can still get their product on time, even with shopping a little bit later. So really what it comes down to, though, is communication from the retailers, and making sure that you're super clear about your shipping cutoff dates. And also your return policy and all of that. So I think it's just a matter of really communicating. But I will have to look at the December numbers, and I'll be curious to see how it plays out. But we have seen that over the last few years that people are shopping up closer and closer to Christmas, because they know they can get the product faster.
Yeah, that's interesting. And for the listeners that are an e-com in the audience, so what's the implication for you, right? So it does require that the communication be prime. We were talking about on the podcast before about the importance of using maybe mobile phone as a way to communicate about shipping delays and where your products are. So definitely something that, as people have more and more expectation and shopping closer and closer to the holidays, what can you do to ensure that you have customer satisfaction? Because there's nothing more disappointing for kids to receive any present on the 26th. So
Right.
you definitely need to be, I'm sure for the parents out there, they all know that. So if you're shopping online, think about and if your brand, think about your consumer, and like, what can you do to make sure that the communication is as streamlined as possible. One of the things I saw, Matt, and I don't know if you saw that trend, but something that really excited me and really is related to our world, both of us, it's that mobile is taking over desktop. And I don't know if you saw that stat, but
Yeah.
I say that 51.2% of sales went through mobile, and it was the first time ever. And so what's the implication in that perspective? Well, I went and look online, and there was a CNBC report out there that was saying that in a purchase, about 44% of all purchases are kind of impulse buy. And then if you go a little deeper on those purchases, like out of the 70% that are consumers that are purchasing impulsively, well, actually, 70% of them are doing it from their cell phone. So, as mobile is getting bigger and bigger, and we know that the impulse buyer is evilly skewed toward mobile as well, what is the implication in the video commerce space, right? Well, the implication is easy in my point of view. Well, people are constantly asking me, should I go and use vertical video or horizontal video, right? Well,
Yeah.
if you video commerce, it's going to be really toward the impulse buyer, and that's the audience you want to grab. That the video is actually a better experience on a vertical mode. And so what I encourage the folks to think about is that if that's the format and if that's what you are looking to do with your video commerce strategy, you should definitely stream vertical. I don't know what you think on that, Matt, because you are all about the horizontal, right? Being on the from a TV media, but it's super interesting and fascinating numbers.
No, you were. I saw the same stat, Nicholas. 51.2% spent online over Black Friday weekend. $5.3 billion online sales on Black Friday, and 54% of that dollar was off of mobile or smartphone. So I think your point is exactly right. You have to be vertical. You have to be integrated into that smartphone dynamic because she's on the go. And when you think about literally men and women on the go, the phone is connected to their hand and they're moving and they're doing their daily activities or whatever they're going. The phone doesn't leave their hand, or their body. So you have to be integrated. You have to have that aspect in your platform, in your marketing platform, I think, to be successful moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So Matt, before we wrap up, any big news that you want to bring on to the stage?
Well, you know what, Nicholas, I wanted to tell you real quick. I don't know if you watched it, but on Black Friday, while my wife was putting up our Christmas tree, I was watching the first NFL football game on Amazon, and I was so intrigued. Last week we talked about it. Amazon paid the NFL $100 million for the broadcast, and they doubled their ad revenue for the Black Friday event. The reports I read was that they did not make the $100 million on the day, but everyone said it was a huge success. So Amazon Prime, and I was watching intently, like half the commercials had QR codes and different, like go right to Amazon, go right to the retailer kind of dynamics. Then the other half had, there were insurance commercials or beer commercials or car commercials, like general, big buy, big purchase, linear television commercials on Amazon. So I was completely intrigued by it. Basically, it was a win-win for Amazon. I think they probably garnered. They didn't report their numbers, but they said the whole weekend was up, which makes complete sense. The one thing I wanted to say, Nicholas, with this coming week, like I said to Melissa and you, I'm intrigued by what December brings in the retail space. We've got a product coming on that's been successful on QVC. It's called Zoli Candies. Zoli Candies, and the founder is Elise Moros. She is an 18-year-old freshman at Michigan State.
Oh,
she
wow.
founded this candy company. It's an amazing story. 18-year-old founder. When she does her virtual presentations, she does it from her dorm room at Michigan State. Now, I think she'll be in the studio this coming week, although it might be finals week. I don't even know. But I think it's an amazing story. Zoli Candies is coming up on QVC, so tune in for that.
I hope she is also on BigCommerce and have her own D2C store. Amazing story. And I was wondering, Matt, did Geico had a QR code tattoo on him so you can scan him and buy the insurance right there too, or?
No. So the first couple waves of commercials had QR codes, and then many others didn't. I was just so intrigued by the commercials. The game was terrible. The Jets stink. The Dolphins killed them. But I was intrigued by the commercials, and it was really interesting.
Awesome. Well, for the listeners, thank you again for being here. You are more and more every week, and we are very appreciative of you being here, sharing your comments and sharing your questions on the comment section. We are here every week on Fridays at 11 on LinkedIn, as well as you can see the video on Instagram. On X, as well as on Facebook. We are posting on YouTube, and obviously you can follow us and engage with us directly on the podcast, the Live E-commerce podcast, where we are publishing this episode as well as one episode every Tuesday. Melissa, thank you very much for taking the time today. Fantastic talking with you. Thank you for sharing all the insight. Matt, as usual, thanks for being here. We will see you again next Friday. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Happy holidays. Thanks for having me.